It is with renewed pleasure that we welcome you to Press Asset today, Sunday the 11th, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also some years gone that the one subject, one textbook policy was put into place in Cameroon. We are going to see how effective it is in the school milieu just 1 week into the reopening of the 2022-2023 school year. We also have another issue on Press R, burning, of course. Who opened shut down schools? Some schools, close to 500 of them, were closed down by competent authorities in Cameroon. But what we know is that a good number of those schools are functioning. We are going to ask that question to some of the officials of the Ministry of Secondary Education who represents the educational system from the basic to the secondary, of course. And they are all here, the panelists. I'm going to start with the parent. The parent here is Ernest Akufo, who also is a civil society actor. He has been a teacher also all his life, so he combines so many caps here on the set. Ernest Akufo, welcome to Press Asset.
It's a pleasure for me being on this set this afternoon on Press Hour, Killian. I want to say good afternoon to the viewers out there. I just think that in the next hour or so, we're going to dissect the two very important topics we have at hand.
That is exactly why you are here. We are honored to have you on Press Asset, sir.
Thank you.
Just close to you, next to me, is Killian Fale Kelesen, who is an educationist. He is a principal in one private school in town here in Yaoundé. We are honored to have you on Press Asset, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure for me to be here today.
The pleasure is shared. You're welcome. And I move on to the right-hand side of the set to welcome Dr. Jude Berry-Nui. Dr. Jude Berry-Nui is the controller of service number 1 in the Ministry of Secondary Education. We are glad to have you, and you're going to tell us how far you go with the control.
It's a pleasure, Killian, and good afternoon to everybody and to the co-panelists.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. I share a good afternoon with all our viewers. We have our own Christian Gar. Christian, he is publisher and editor-in-chief of the Guardian Post newspaper. Christian, it's been a while. You've not been on Press Asset.
Well, I took a break, and thank God I'm back, and I hope to share my little ideas about what we're going to discuss today with our viewers.
Welcome with new ideas from out of the country. I hope you had a nice time where you were.
Yeah, I had a 1 month vacation, so I'm back.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we always start with press review. That's what we're going to propose to you right away. And our lady on the beat is Emmanuel Labemnu, and she has the review of the press for this week for us.
School resumption for the 2022-2023 academic year dominated the news the week ending. Cameroon Tribune confirms effective kickoff of schools, but it is a timid resumption in the northwest and southwest in the horizon, with Boya population gripped by fear following the resurfacing of separatist fighters who killed 7 and injured dozens in the post-weekender. The Guardian Post thinks it is time for separatists to allow effective schooling in northwest-southwest, especially as conflict experts slam separatists advocating school boycott in the same paper. Then Goketunjia elite youth donate didactic materials to IDPs to boost back to school in the Herald Tribune. In the face of complaints from parents and vendors over high prices of school needs in the Post, elite then drum return to peace effective schooling in the Guardian Post. Goketunjia youth seek return to normalcy in Cameroon Tribune. And so far so good, Cameroon Insider chronicles school resumption nationwide. stating the introduction of toll-free number for any worries as novelty. There is a new twist in the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest in the eye of Newswatch as BIOK Special Forces deployment. But the Special Forces in the northwest, southwest to the Voice is what it writes. Here comes the special status just when the commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, Debrecrio, to launch cleansing offensive in Buea, separatists claim victory in the horizon. At a time, suspected Amber fighters attack bus, kill at least 4 passengers on Buea-Kumba Highway in the Guardian Post. Cameroon Inside the Radar reports that at least 6 people were killed in suspected separatist bus attack with 8 others injured along the Buea-Kumba Highway. And immediately government condemns the Kumba Highway killing in Cameroon Tribune. Election Cameroon applauds women, youths, persons with disabilities for boosting 2022 voter registration in the Herald Tribune. Voter registration is said to have doubled in the Northwest region with close to 11,000 newly registered voters in Cameroon Insider, and a total of 340,000 new voters are said to have been registered in 2022 in the horizon. Then a ministerial decision expands Limbe Deep Sea Port in Eco Outlook just when neglected Tico Airport to be rehabilitated and built according to government, a Newswatch. Yaoundé is reported thirsty as taps run dry in Cameroon Insider. Floods then hit Kumba, rendering families homeless in the Guardian Post. FIFA World Cup trophy spends 72 hours in Cameroon and takes off for Morocco as it tours qualified countries in Cameroon Insider. Just when the longest-serving British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, dies. Let's now end our press review with this story in the Guardian Post, where soldiers have rescued a day-old baby in Bangui, Northwest region. The child that was still attached to the placenta was abandoned in a nearby bush around Monastery Fence in Mile 17, Bangui, wrapped in a loincloth and kept inside a plastic bag. The child was rushed to the Bangui District Hospital by military officials and is said to be doing fine. The population of Bangui has been saluting the military for such a great move, especially as it has become common for young girls to discard their offsprings after birth in the locality. Investigations are said to have been opened to fish out the mother of the abandoned baby girl. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Manuela, and we look forward to having you next Sunday, God willing. You rightly said 96 years on earth, 70 years as the Queen of the United Kingdom. Queen Elizabeth II dies. God bless King Charles III. That has been the most recent, that's what is hitting the newspapers every leaf around the world. The death of the Queen Elizabeth II, and now the new King Charles III of the United Kingdom. When you received the death of Queen Elizabeth II, Ernest Akufo, the world has been shaken.
The world has been shaken, Kilian.
It is more of a celebration. I have not seen this before.
The world has been shaken. Why? Because she was emblematic. She was a figure to reckon with. I think Britain being a monarchy, some other monarchies are longing to see a monarch reign for all that much, 7 decades of reign. Her good deeds, it's what people are celebrating, because people never celebrate failure, okay? People celebrate success. Although success may not be an entirety, but when people think about Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her 70 years of reign, there are very many things to take home about than the other things to think against. So that's why I find total celebration, not only celebrating because of her successes, but for a complete life lived.
Thank you Thank you very much, Christian. Christian, we're going to talk also about the respect. When you hear that somebody commands respect, we have seen this in the reign, in the life and death of Queen Elizabeth II. Christian.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, your first question was my reaction when I got news of her death. Actually, I'll answer your question, but just to say that it came like a shock to me because a day before she died or two, she had received the new British Prime Minister, and so I wouldn't have imagined that the next day would be the news of her death. But however, I think the manner in which she died tells us that she lived a God-fearing life, because people who are God-fearing, the way they died like she died. They don't suffer, and I think she left a mark. As Mr. Akufo said, she was a woman, but she lived like a man because she respected her people.
Women will ask you to come back on that statement that she lived like a man. I say so because I do not want to be crucified by women I know when I get out of this studio.
No, she
lived like a great woman.
A great woman.
Yes.
But she was a man to me because she gave a lot of values to democracy, to good governance, and all the tenets of democracy throughout her reign. I mean, the UK was under her a nation that everybody thought to be.
Yes, and you, in one way or the other, answered the question in terms of respect. I'm going to carry that
and above
aspect
all, her
of
divinity.
Respect. Yes,
you cannot leave that out.
Dr. Jude.
Despite whoever she was very humble.
In terms of respect, in terms of authority, what do you take home when it comes to Queen Elizabeth II, her life? And Christian was just talking about the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who also is a lady. They respect ladies in that place. One woman has been respected up to, she has reigned well. Another lady is a prime minister, not the first prime minister, of course, but respect indeed. That's what we're talking about.
Really, Killian, respect indeed, and she deserves it because she respected herself. For her to have lived and died at 96, to have reigned for 70 years is not given to everybody. And the way she carried herself around, the way she implemented some of the decisions, the way she brought England to where it is today, I just want to think that the world has lost an emblematic figure, and instead of mourning, I think it is time to celebrate because we don't see that every day. And that is why I respected England. The Premier League from Friday was suspended. Good. No match was played in the English soil, just to tell the world
that we honor
exactly
our queen.
Yeah.
Killian, authority comes from God. They've talked about humility. We are told. I think she showed proof of the fact that when God gives you authority, you live it fully, but you also humbly manifest it.
Seriously, she was a person that I actually admired. She did the best, and I am grateful of what she offered to the world. So I think I am privileged to be part of this transitional period.
Oh, good.
It's not everyone that can witness this. So I think in Britain or wherever people are watching the period, this particular period is not easy, and I know that what she did, most of the young generation who are going to witness the reign of King Charles III are going to be at least motivated.
And when we'll be talking about Queen Elizabeth II, we'll be talking about people like Mahatma Gandhi, we'll be talking about people like Nelson Mandela, we will be talking about people like President Kennedy, the Trumans in the United States. We will be talking about people of such caliber. Thank you very much. We're going to go through this interlude, this transition, and we go into our first topic of debate. Yes, Okay, you welcome back. Of course, you were reminding me that we should put on that list Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. There are so many of them. The list is long. And our topic, our first topic of debate for today is one textbook, one subject, one textbook policy. And how is it practical in the school milieu? That's what we're going to get from our panelists, their experience in schools. We have authorities of the ministries, we have pressmen, and we have some other parents who are directly linked with the effect of one textbook, one subject in our schools. Going first to start with you to appreciate that initiative. I know all of us have either had children of our own biological or extended, and you know how one child used to carry a big house of a bag on their back to school. One subject, one textbook helped the children. It also helped the parents who buy the books to limit, and it also, we were told, helped children to concentrate and master some of the things than going out for everything and mastering none. Those are some of the advantages we were told, but we'll get experts here and there. And we're beginning with the official, Dr. Jude Berinu, who is the Controller of Service Number 1 in the Ministry of Secondary Education. One subject, one textbook. Dr. Jude.
Thank you, Killian. I think when the...
Are you doing the control?
We are.
So can we say that you are applying that policy in schools today?
I want to think that when the Prime Minister took the decision for one text, one subject, one textbook in 2018, it was a welcome relief to parents.
Yes.
And because it was so costly, you talked about children carrying heavy books and going to school, or heavy bags, and since that decision was taken, everybody saluted it. But we live in a context wherein as much as the government tries to make things better for people, for parents, there are individuals who want to feel that such things should not be applied. I want to indicate that the issue of one textbook, one subject is practice, especially when you go to government schools. Controls have been done and reports have indicated that this is respected. But we have a problem, especially at the level of private schools. Proprietors, they respect what the government is asking by prescribing and asking parents to buy the books that they are supposed to buy. But like in every sector, there are always those who want to think that they should be smart in order to benefit from a situation.
They are actually outsmarting you. You are controller.
Not just us, they are outsmarting parents, because if, for example, I am a parent and I know this is the official book list and I go to register my child in an institution, then I realize that there are books added apart from what is supposed to be done. I have the responsibility to report the matter to the competent authorities so that it should be sorted out.
You are a parent. I welcome you out there with children. Have you reported yourself to yourself, because you are one, a parent, and also a controller? If you have not, then what has happened? Have you reported yourself to yourself as a parent, to yourself as a controller?
I remember in 2020.
Because that is recurrent, to be very frank.
I remember in 2020, Killian, my children went to school with my wife and brought a list of books which do not reflect what the government has decided. A private school, that's basic education. I went to the school and told the proprietor that what she is doing is not right. I went to the ministry, reported the case to the Ministry of Basic Education. They went to the field and that proprietor was sanctioned.
Well, it is still going on. You did it for yourself. Why didn't you today, as a controller, just come in and make sure that it doesn't happen to helpless parents? They are parents who have authority like you, but there are those parents who don't have that force, that authority to be able to go up with, power and cause an immediate effect.
I don't think it caused I succeeded simply because I have power and I have authority. What I'm simply saying is that if there are parents out there who are aware of such practices in schools, they should go to the competent authorities and report. And when I talk of the competent authorities, they should come to the Ministry of Secondary Education or the Ministry of Basic Education and report. In secondary education, there's a National Control Brigade in charge of private schools. They should report.
Well, listening to you, I'll go to a parent. Ernest Akufo, on this set, you are a parent. What is your experience?
Killian, talking about my experience, I want to say that like a parent and member of a PTA, I want to first of all thank Doctor. You know, he's representing the government, right? And he must always defend their policy. But I want to say, like a parent, the practicality is not there. Because he said, when he started, he talked of it was a policy, the policy was, which means along the line there are some lapses, which is but obvious. The lapses occur as a result of the fact that, because he equally talked of government schools, that the government schools, they do respect that. Yes, because I listened to him keenly, which means that elsewhere there is some variation. The variation is coming about as a result of the fact that we must first of all look at the school curricula. Yes, I think there are some educationists here that talk about that. When you look at the school, look at the school curricula and the examination timetable or the
a parent, yes. As a parent, Ernest, have you been buying additional books from teachers for your children?
I do buy without saying.
Why?
I do buy because you see the textbooks prescribed, I go in for them, but at times the teachers, they have to complement. They have to complement in the fact that.
Do you know that exactly you have said what we wanted? That complement is what caused children to be carrying those houses of a bag of books, because every teacher benefits when they bring in their what you call complement.
Yeah, you're very right there. When I talk of the cumbersomeness of the bags of our children, I think some of the schools where that complementarity is brought about, those books are never carried home by the children. They are most often used by the teachers to build up. Because you see, Killian, I want to say the policy in itself is not bad because it saves the parents maybe from too much expenditure, but is it commensurate? Is the $1 million question.
I will come back to.
Can I say something?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I followed Doctor very keenly, and if you ask me again, I'll tell you that it is a very good policy. But there is a problem at the level of implementation
that is
in this country.
That is the point.
Biggest problem we have in Cameroon. First of all, we don't. I'm a publisher. I'm a journalist. There is little information about what the one subject, one textbook is all about. So parents are in the dark. That's the first thing. At this level, the blame lies at the doorsteps of government. Number two, why can the two ministries of basic and secondary education not come out with a book list for all the schools, be they private or government? That is the question.
Is it not for all schools?
I am surprised that
it's for all schools.
It's for everybody.
It is not made public. That's why the private schools take advantage of the parents to come out with additional books.
Every year before the school year begins,
I'm saying that as a journalist, I'm not aware of any information or campaign to guide parents on which textbooks to buy and which not to buy.
I just want to have the feeling that maybe you have not gotten to the right source.
No, it is
because these books are on the official website. Yes, they're on the official website. And they are published everywhere. I am surprised that you are not aware. Everywhere on the internet.
No,
and on physical
my
places.
grandmother in the village, who is my grandson, does not visit the internet.
In other words, you are saying that you are.
What we are saying is, please, when you want to, it's a very laudable decision, as we said. Okay. Now, if you want to get it right down to the road, you need a lot of sensitization.
Well, we need more control now.
I mean, even Killian who is talking here does not have enough knowledge of
no, I have full knowledge of it. That's why I brought up this topic. And I know that parents pay more books than they are on the official list.
In fact, what we're just saying is that the Ministry of Education has to do more.
That is why we
in
are
the area of sensitization.
That's why we are here.
And giving out information to the
not
public.
even sensitization, control. That's where we are. Control that the good policy you say it is should be implemented. That's where we are. We have a principle of a private school here. Are you saying that? Do you agree that it doesn't apply to private schools?
It does.
Exactly.
The books that are given by the government are all implemented.
Yes.
But we have a problem. For the past, let me put it, 4 years, we have been suffering. Since the revision of the new program, that's a competence-based approach, in 2017, there were books that were brought into the program. The council in charge of the selections of books for the primary and the secondary came up and they brought in the new books that were supposed to be used. That's a single book. It was very advantageous to the parents because the parents were now restricted from getting 3 books per subject. So when they came in with that, we took it as a positive approach to the teaching field. But the problem is, every single year, these books are manipulated and removed, and we have to add new books into.
Who does that?
The council. The council in charge of the selections of books for the primary and the secondary. But for the secondary, it is a little bit stable. It is for the primary. The primary is too porous. But the reason came up because I had to go into verifying what was really happening. Yeah. And I noticed that in 2017, that was the 25th of November 2017, the council sat and came up with a resolution that new books were supposed to be implemented. And in 2018, the new curriculum talking about the administration of the competence-based approach in schools was implemented. We were still working with the old system of approach in teaching. So authors have already produced books which were developed based on the objective-based approach. Those books will not easily be eradicated. And those who were to come up with good materials for the children to use in 2018 were not able to do that within a single year. What happened is that they brought in the new books. Those books that were stipulated had to be changed in 2018.
That created a problem.
And which created a big problem.
Thank you. I am told by my director producer that we have a special viewer today on the program, and who is a publisher. He's a renowned publisher in Cameroon, Mr. Fogwe Rogers, who will we want to welcome you. First of all, we are honored to have you on Press Hour today, sir.
Thank you very much, Killian, for having me on Press Hour. It's a great pleasure. Press Hour is a wonderful program. It informs and educates a lot because many people don't have the time to delve deeply into subjects, and Press Hour gives them the opportunity. I'm glad to be here.
For that honor, we are going to ask you, the first question we'll ask you is simply, as someone who has deep knowledge in it, you are among the pioneers of this system, how do you assess the one subject, one textbook policy in Cameroon this far?
From the onset, the one textbook policy came to resolve a big problem. Before the one textbook system, we had a situation wherein the book commission at the time had moved from the prescribed number of textbooks per subject by the Prime Ministerial text of 2002, which said that there should be 3 textbooks per subject. They have moved from 3 textbooks per subject to 5 textbooks per subject for secondary, and at primary we had already hit 10 textbooks per subject. That was very disorderly. And in my time as the president of the National Publishers Association of Cameroon, I was advocating that we should respect the Prime Ministerial text, because there was no other document officially signed that had changed that policy and had authorized the movement from 3 to 5 or 3 to 10. That was a big advocacy, I want to say fight. It made the book industry very complicated. It brought in every Tom, Dick, and Harry. People were playing, I usually say people were playing basketball in the same pitch like football and lawn tennis and handball. So anybody was doing anything. It made it very complicated, and the publishing industry became like the place where anybody who wants to do any nonsense can get into. Gradually, I think the government got to hear some of our cries and our, not just the complaints, our advocacy. And in 2017, the commission was pushed aside, and a new commission was put in place to implement a one textbook policy. I don't want to say that was what I was advocating for. I was advocating for the respect of the initial ministerial text of 2002, because at least it left a competition in place for 2-3 people in the slot, which could make it be better for everyone, because we're fighting on price. But once the government has taken the policy and it's signed off, you can't go back to it. So the one textbook policy came into play, and we had to just look at, say, what are the positive sides of one textbook policy. The positive side of it was that it was going to curb the corruption that was happening in schools, because 10 publishers going to promote a maths book to a headmaster, the headmaster has to find a differential. What should he use to choose one? And if all the books had pedagogic similarities, the only differentials could be who offers the best envelope. And so one textbook policy meant that you didn't have to go to schools to promote books and, offload money into schools. It was changing even the school environment. So it was a good policy. And secondly, there was a talk about economies of scale. It was good, but it was misunderstood. People felt that if you have only one textbook for subject in the whole country, and you produce 500,000 books, the price will come down to 100 or 200. It doesn't work in the industry. So the problem is the people implementing the one textbook system, I don't think that some of the concepts were clearly understood. So that will bring some hitches that we'll discuss later. It was a positive thing to try and look at economies of scale that could benefit price for parents. And of course, if the price were going to come down because we're producing more, parents had to benefit from it. So in the end, everybody benefited something. The publisher who has a book approved will have a book to sell for 6 years. And schools, they're no longer struggling with which book they should take and which they shouldn't take. And the parents will be able to buy books at a cheaper price.
Yes,
the price thing too is going to be a problem later when we come back to this topic.
Mr. Fogwe, you don't seem to be completely happy, probably because you are a publisher, and the one subject, one textbook did not favor some of you who had so many books to put out. Can we not say that that's why you don't seem to, you say it's good, but you don't seem to approve completely?
Well, because this policy is not, I would say, I don't understand well managed, but it's not properly implemented. It is in a way killing the publishing industry. It sounds to me, and it feels to me, I'm trying to be modest and weigh my words, that those implementing the policy have reduced every other objective around the policy to making a book cheaper. But cheaper doesn't necessarily mean better. And when it's cheaper also, you have to look at the things like, how are the industries surviving? So they focus so much on bringing down the price of the book that now the margins that permitted publishers to be able to create jobs, pay taxes, and still survive and grow, those chances have been diminished. Normally, our country we don't do a lot of general literature, publication, and the side effect of the one textbook policy was that by the time a publisher has sold enough of the school textbook and made some more money, he will be promoting the reading culture by producing other reading materials. But right now, the publisher doesn't even have enough money to survive, talk less of continuing to publish the school textbook, not to even mention publishing any other book that he's not sure that he will sell. So the over-focus on the price, on hammering down the price, is killing the publishing industry. That is the one thing. So it's like they say, rob Peter to pay Paul. You know, you're taking money from here and you're throwing in another direction and you're killing one person. So today, publishing industries are struggling to survive in this context. Also because, this is the second point on the downside of it, the policy, the benefit of the policy have not been well communicated to parents. And so the promotion, the book commission itself is not doing enough promotion, I would say, to make the parents know that this is in their favor, and that with less than 15,000 they can buy all textbooks for their kids in class 1. So parents still feel like they don't have this awareness that books have become cheaper for their benefit. And so now you made the price of the book to be very low. Parents are not informed about how they should benefit from it. And those who are printing the books, publishing and printing the books, are selling them at a very low price with very small margins. And the parents are not buying all the stock. And the bookstore, they have a lot of unsold stocks in our warehouses. So in the end, you see, it becomes complicated for the publisher. And so he's getting killed.
Yes, thank you. Don't go away yet. If you can, please stay. We will come back to you. Let's come back to this set. He has said a number of things there in his intervention. We were very grateful that he gave some insight. He's a professional in that domain. I saw you nodding. What do you take home from what he has said, or contrary to what he has said, Dr. Jude?
What I take home positively from what he has said is that a decision for one subject, one textbook, is a good one.
Christian?
No, I think he said exactly, part of what I said here, that the parents do not have enough information. And then, the one thing that actually got my mind was the fact that there's a lot of corruption in the whole process. You remember at the launch of the school year in Betua a few weeks ago, the chairman of CONAC was very clear on that the school milieu or education sector is the most corrupt in this country. I'm sure even though he's talking on behalf of government, he can also admit that even the control, as we are talking about, is not easy.
Who is talking on behalf of government?
He's talking from the ministry.
Okay.
So I'm saying that you admit that there's a lot of corruption in the education sector in Cameroon. So
no, nobody
doubts that.
Nobody doubts that.
Okay.
It is said by CONAC.
No, I just want to.
That is why we have so many.
You are hammering on control.
No,
the same people who are going to the field.
We have to control.
Are going sometimes without
control. Control is to make sure that corruption is curbed.
But the same people who are going for control will take money.
Well, you can't prove. When you prove, you come and report to CONAC.
I'm not.
Okay. Yes, you.
In relation to the selection of books, he presented it very well, but we are really suffering.
Yes.
These books that we brought into the program in 2017, we all changed in 2018 when the new program came up. That's a competence-based approach. And they had to bring in books for level 1, especially for the primary. In 2020, they changed all the books for level 2 and brought in new books because they were struggling to make sure that the books adapt to the new system. And because of that, what they promise us is not what we are seeing, because every year they keep on changing books, and it is more of a cost to the parents. Yeah, so that's what we are really suffering of.
Exactly when I was in primary secondary school in the 80s, late 70s and early 80s, the books that my elders used are the books that I used. And they are the books that the other children who came afterwards used. We didn't have this thing of changing books every year. But you also know that even before us, we did not have this type of adultery in publication. Doctor, what is wrong with the control of a good policy? Why can't you go down and control what everybody accepts that is a good step by government?
Killian, before I respond to that question, I would like to react to one or two comments already on set so that we continue to educate, to inform the public. I think Fale is talking more from the sector, from the private sector, which at the beginning of my presentation, I indicated that they do not want to follow the one book system because proprietors of private schools enter into shady deals with publishers or authors of books. No, I mean authors of books, because they want them to come and promote their books in school. And I want to assure you that in 1 or 2 surprise control, we have seen that. But when they know that the control is coming down, they hide it. So there's that shady. That is why I say in one of those surprise control, we have got them.
Okay.
Yes. So I want to add, he is talking from that perspective, because there is shady dealing that private owners of private schools engage themselves with authors. And that is why, despite the fact that there are books on the school list, they go ahead to connive with other persons to include books, to add books to what is already existing. And when I listen to Mr. Akufo, what I understand is that this complicity, the parents are involved. Because he said something, that in as much as there is the book prescribed by the government, they as parents, they still always feel that other books could be used to complement. But that is not what the government is asking for.
So, Ernest, that is exactly what you are saying, as Dr. Jude says, is that complicity. Would you say complementing?
Complementing.
Yeah. It's actually the source of the problem.
Yes, but before I get to that, Mr. Fogwe said very many important things there, and even coming to what I did say, because like a publisher, he knows what is happening in the field. And he's not only the first. I don't want to publicize his house, but I know that his house is one of the big houses that makes textbooks available. So when we're talking about complementarity in the thing, because I posed a rhetorical question: does the complementarity fall in line with the school curricula?
No. It is this is what it is. You should follow what the book list government has given and stop teachers coming up with complementary books in school. Teacher comes in with their own book. That is what the
Killian,
that you cannot do without a supplementary book.
No, Killian,
what's the margin now?
Killian, you should know that. I'm sorry to cut you. You should know that the one book policy, in as much as we say it is good, but what happens of some other material which is not, because the book.
How do you define material? That material you are talking about is a new textbook. That is simple.
Yeah, even just to add, the fact that it is a one book, one subject system does not stop teachers from using other materials at home to prepare their lessons.
Good. I think that is it.
That is where it lands. But when they carry it and bring it to the school milieu and impose it on parents, that is where the problem lies.
I think he has summarized it.
Yes,
so it is understood. So what we, after having closed this, the way you have rightly done it, Dr. Jude, I think you should go down to the field as controller of service number 1, the Ministry of Secondary Education, to make sure that does not happen in school. And we are going to transit to our second.
Can I just say one thing, please, which is very important?
Well, everything is important.
No, yes, but the one thing Mr. Akufo is saying, which I don't agree with, is trying to defend the owners of private schools. I think the take-home message to parents is that once you realize that your child has been asked to buy more than one textbook, you have to move up to the Ministry of
But that is what we say.
That's the message.
No. We are not going to open a new debate on that.
I just said that should be the take-home message, that parents will move up and denounce and report some cases.
That is the conclusion. And with this transition, we are going to move into our second topic. Yes, we also have another topic here to talk about on this set for the benefit of all of us. Who opened shut down schools? About, I should say, I will have somebody here who is going to give us the exact figures of schools that were closed down at the end of the 2021-2022 school year. But what we know is that most, I should say, if not all, these schools closed down are functioning. Who opened shut down schools? How many schools, first of all, what are the statistics, Dr. Jude, of schools that were shut down for not meeting the criteria for creation and for operation?
When we combine both the primary and the secondary, we are approximating 500 schools that were shut down. But so far as secondary education is concerned, we had 3 orders. There is a first order containing 118 schools for violating the procedure for setting up and opening schools or for other deficiencies. Then we have 17 schools that were shut down because these are schools that have been authorized, but for some time they have decided not to function. They have unilaterally closed, and so the minister took the decision recognizing their decision to close. And then we have the last set, 5 schools that sections were shut down for illegal extension. For example, you are open to function for the first cycle and you extend to the second cycle, or you are open for the Francophone system and you extend to the Anglophone system.
Very good. We spoke with the principal in a private institution, and this is what he said he had as requirements for his school to function. We'll listen to him, come back to you and confirm whether that is true. Now we're going to listen to this principal of a school in Yaoundé.
You must prove of having a land 2,500 meters square. You must prove that you have staff that can run the school. You must prove of having your didactic materials in school. And then when all those are being done, you take it at the level of the SEDUC. From SEDUC, you deposit the document at the level of SEDUC. If the documents are okay, they now take it at the level of the regional delegations. The regional delegation will send members to come into the field. And when they come to the field and they discover that everything is okay, they will take it back to the regional delegation, and then they will not channel it at the level of the Ministry of Secondary Education. The Ministry of Secondary Education equally sends delegation to come and investigate. From there, they give you your creation. It's the same procedure as to give you the same procedure to function and for creation. I became the principal of this school in 2019, and I have received about 3 delegations. The first was in 2020, and then the second and the third came last year. That is the 2021-2022 academic year, because they came to inspect. They got information that Tanker is not registered. Tanker does not have creation. Tanker does not have a document to function. But when they came here, I produced the document to them, and everything went on well.
Okay. We went to one of these schools to actually get this, whether they actually follow the procedure. This is what he said. Do you confirm that that's the procedure?
I confirm that that's the procedure, except the last step. The coming down of the authorities from the Ministry of Secondary Education is not automatic. It is when there are doubts. So there is, we believe in the report from the SEDUC, the report from the regional delegation, and then the school is authorized. And let me add, Killian, that it doesn't suffice to have books, to have authorization to set up or setting up and opening. There are other things. If you look at the decision closing down some of those schools, you realize that it is mentioned there for deficiencies, other deficiencies.
Which are?
When we talk about other deficiencies, 1, sometimes there are some of these proprietors who are authorized to run a school, and before you realize they have added maybe a primary school or another institution, they are already out of the law. And that is why when you look at that decision, you see some of those schools shut down because of absence of demarcation between the primary and the secondary. Again, you can see a school that has paper and is shut down because the site is risky for the children. So you can have the authorization, and when control comes, we realize that there are certain deficiencies. You were authorized to do this, and that the environment you have, you can also be closed down for the school, the compound not being clean. Being dirty, it does not fit the school environment.
No, to clean a compound can be a day's job.
No, when I talk about the compound being dirty,
yes,
it's not about picking peppers.
Okay.
It's not about picking peppers. For example,
you needed to tell us that.
Yes, that's why I'm pushing on. We have a school that was shut down, and it made a lot of noise because this proprietor was authorized to own a school, and then he went ahead to have another business with whatever it comes with Orange, and an antenna of Orange was put on the school campus.
Yes.
this is not what was there when the school was being opened.
Exactly.
And then he is banishing papers that have been closed. But the reason is elsewhere.
Yes, and such antennas have rays that can be dangerous to the human being. We accept, but what we will ask you again before I go to the other panelists is, when you close down schools at the end of the third term holiday, and you don't make sure that that effectively goes on, you will only come back next year with another closure and it will not have any effect. How do you think that you can carry out this for it to be effective?
I will answer the question by explaining something. I think at the end of it all, we will get something. The procedure for closing down a school is a chain. For example, the team goes down to the field, controls, and then give report. The minister takes the decisions to close down the schools. And once the schools are closed down, there is a handed message that the minister writes to the governors of the regions concerned, who are supposed to relay it to the senior divisional officers, who should in turn relay it to the divisional officers. They are the authorities that have the force. They have to go down to the field and seal the schools. It is not the Minister of Secondary Education that closes and goes to seal. We do not have that judicial competence to do that.
But you should follow up your decisions.
And that is why very soon the ministry will be going down to the field to check whether these schools that were actually closed down have been sealed. It is on that basis that we are able to get the report.
But now, can you do that now? The question is simple. Children are registered and they are in class. How do you close down that school? Where will you take that children? What will the social impact be handled?
I think the decision closing down school was signed on the 9th of August 2022.
We agree.
And we go back to say this is where again complicity comes in. As a parent, when these schools, there has been enough sensitization on national station, on the website, on television, and even on the field, the regional delegation, and these schools are closed down, and you go again to register the parent, the child in a school that is closed down, there is a problem.
That's the question I had to ask.
Yes.
You close down a school that is up to sixth or Form 5.
Yes.
You have closed it down. There are children who are in Form 1, there are others who are in Form 2, others in Form 3, 4. If you close it down, what do you do with all the children who have been going on that school? You are not only closing Form 1, for example.
I want to believe that the proliferation of private schools in Cameroon is no longer news. And if a school is functioning without papers, and it is closed down, that is why we do it at the end of the academic year.
No,
not to disturb. Let me push it to the end.
No, let me
push it to the end.
Go to the end of
Let me push it to the end, please.
No,
let me push it to the end.
You told us that you are coming to talk with
let him explain.
Yes.
After him is you.
I am saying that these schools are closed down at the end of the academic year to give parents the time to transfer their children to schools that are authorized. That is the reason why in the middle of the academic year, except in a special case, you will not see schools closed down. They are closed at the end of the academic year so that parents can have enough time to transfer
children. He will come in. What we are saying is that what you did 2 years ago is what you have done this year. What you did 4 years ago is what you have done this year. And the schools continue. Okay.
No, I think there is something I'm not getting very correctly. The feeling you want to leave us with is that the ministry only goes down to the schools at the end of the academic year.
Well,
whereas if you have control teams, excuse me, please.
That is not a feeling. That's the wrong feeling.
But I'm taking it from you.
No, control is done throughout the academic year, and then schools are closed at the end of the academic year.
Okay, to make sure that they don't start in the
new year.
Yes. I'm not talking with Killian.
I've been in the cool for long.
We'll bring you out of that cool. Yes. Killian, you have a school.
Yes.
Is your school authorized? Because he talked about extra things. Maybe you are only talking about the papers.
No, it is authorized. We had all the documents, creation and opening. And what I can chip in is that when these schools are created, there are some people who have documents which are incomplete. He did not add that. I have schools that were closed this year with documents incomplete. And the delegation that is sent
And
to
that
the
those schools are functioning.
they're functioning.
Okay.
The delegation that is sent to the field.
That is a signal to you, because when you blame the governor, the SDO, and the point is that they are schools, and schools fall under the ministry.
When a school is closed down,
I was talking.
when a school is closed down,
Yes.
and you function, or they put the seal and you remove, the justice is there to pick you
You are
up.
saying that justice has not taken place for so many years. We hear this every year, but the same schools operate.
The justice is not the Ministry of Secondary Education.
But
Those who open the school is simple.
Yeah.
Are those who come to control the schools. When they come, they don't take the precautions as it is supposed to be. There is a mafia that takes place.
yeah,
The principals,
that's interesting. What is
yeah,
that?
the principals will try to, or the owners of the institutions, because they are out for business, will try to convince those people to believe that, okay, give us time, we are going to provide the documents within this academic year, and an envelope is issued.
Wow. Ernest, we cannot continue from there. He has said what he had to say.
Killian,
Categorically stating.
I rather feel flabbergasted when the ministry, the officials from the ministry, they talk about that, because you see, there's a lot of administrative tolerance. That's what is killing this nation. Administrative tolerance in all sectors of the administration. Because when you even look at the drinking spots at the entrance to schools, that's administrative tolerance. So I don't see how we go close a school where, because government, first of all, cannot provide schools in every locality. Even if they are provided, government doesn't construct those schools. It is the people there who construct the schools. Now,
Well, some of the schools,
I beg your pardon. Now, when you have the private individuals who work in partnership with government, who are making efforts, I think government is supposed to accompany them rather than always be putting the administrative bottlenecks there. Because you see, when that proprietor did speak, he talked of the
government doesn't put administrative bottlenecks.
You just said that.
Bottlenecks.
No, I say when the school proprietor spoke there, he talked about a list of documents.
No, you are talking about administrative tolerance.
Excuse me, I just want to draw a parallel between the two. He talked about them. You see, I want to say some of these schools, in quote, who are said to be not doctorized, are coming about as a result of the fact that many conditions are supposed to be fulfilled. But again, doctor did say that at one point in time, it would appear there are some irregularities. How do you offer, how do you issue, how do you authorize, yet you discover irregularities at the end?
Well, but there are irregularities in many, since we are human beings are open to that. Without defending that, he was just being honest. You have just 30 seconds.
Yes,
our time is up.
I said, for example, a school is authorized without an antenna in the institution.
Yes.
And the owner of the school stays behind and brings an antenna.
Yes.
How is that not an irregularity that was not discovered?
It is an irregularity. Thank you very much.
I learned.
We are going to end. Yes.
I learned by saying that we are out here to educate the nation, to educate people.
Yes.
If, as Mr. Akufo said, proprietors of private school, in reality, they are partners to the government, because the government cannot be able to open school everywhere. But for that to happen, they have to follow the law.
Thank you very much.
Text is there.
We're going to end this program on that note. Thank you, Dr. Jude Berinu, who is Controller of Service Number 1 in the Ministry of Secondary Education. We want to thank you also, Killian Fale Kelesen, who is an educationist principal in one private school in Yaoundé. Ernest Akufo is a parent, is civil society actor, and Christian Ga Christian is a publisher, editor-in-chief of the Guardian Post newspaper. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that we are happy you gave us the time. Thanks very much and have a nice time ahead.